Hi, welcome to our latest Internet of Things and Communication Services podcast. This is Anthony Savas, International Technology Editor, accompanied by his esteemed industry guest. Today, the main topic we're talking about is the efficient operations around connectivity twins. We'll also be talking about another key development in the communication industry, and we'll finish our discussion with some light-hearted industry news that has surfaced. Today's podcast is sponsored by BICS. BICS was established nearly 2 decades ago, and it provides communication service providers and enterprises with easy access to digital communications, trusted fraud prevention and analytics, along with IoT and 5G global connectivity. It has headquarters in Europe and teams all over the world. That's BICS.com. Again, I'm Anthony Savas. I've been covering the networking and telecom space continuously for the last 25 years, working as a writer and editor for leading international technology magazines and websites. I'm currently a contributing editor for both IoT Now and communication service provider title Vanilla Plus, a sister title of IoT Now. My guest today is Gabriel Salvati from BICS. So, Gabriel, what's your job at BICS and what do you do there?
Hello, Anthony. Thank you very much for inviting me for the session.
It's a pleasure.
I'm a senior manager focused on the IoT, travel mobility, and mobile private network at BICS. I've been working in this market since 2008, and it's going to be a pleasure to talk with you today.
Okay, right. So getting on to almost, 16 years, that will be soon, won't it, Gabriel?
That's correct.
Okay. Before we go on to our main topic of the day, discussing the connectivity twin, we'll talk about something else. Gabriel, I understand you want to talk about scaling the IoT value chain with AI and data analytics. Before I ask you a couple of questions, I'll just put people in the loop who don't know too much about this. AI and data analytics unlock valuable insights from the vast data generated from IoT devices, enabling data-driven decision-making. So, Gabriel, how are these systems to adopt, and can more be done to allow their deployment?
That's a good question. But before I start answering this one, let's just go quickly to main concepts of IoT and AI.
That's fair enough, Gabriel, yeah.
I like to say that IoT is about turning regular objects into smart objects by giving them the ability to communicate with each other and with us. And of course, IoT, it's not a product, it's not a solution. IoT is an ecosystem. There are some studies about the quantity of layers it can have, but I would say there are 3 main ones. So the first one is the hardware, which we have sensors and actuators. Then we have the connectivity. It could be LAN, it could be WAN, local area network, wireless area network, and we have the application. When we go to the AI part, AI is not something really new. It's a broad field of computer science that aims to create machines, or I would say systems that are capable of performing tasks that typically require human, I would say, intelligence. These tasks include learning, reasoning, problem solving, understanding lateral language, perception. And the good part is that from now on, the adoption of AI, data analytics in conjunction with IoT can bring significant benefits that we will explore during the session today.
Okay. Thanks very much for that great outline from your side, Gabriel. That was very helpful for the listeners. So going back to how, whether these systems are easy to adopt or not, can more be done to allow their deployment if they're not that easy to deploy, I should say?
Well, nowadays, 80% of the applications are hosted in cloud. So the main challenge from an IoT device is how this data can be shared or how they can fill the cloud system. So basically, the tech companies such as AWS, Microsoft, and others, they have a kind of host that can get this data. And into their systems, there are there is the cloud ecosystem, and part of this ecosystem, they have the machine learning tools, they have AI tools, and etc. that can be used to process these data. And one good example is the predictive analysis. So nowadays, everyone has been talking about that. And I truly believe this is value added and something easy that can be implemented using or combining these two solutions.
Yeah. Just to confirm, IoT combined with AI can predict equipment failures, reducing operational costs and downtime, for example, and improving service reliability generally. What is the current take-up of such solutions, and which industry verticals, for instance, are using them the most? Is take-up currently low overall?
Well, we do see a huge number of people working on these verticals, evaluating how to combine both solutions. Of course, there are some industries at the forefront of adopting this. Some good examples are, I would say the first one, it's on the manufacturing side. Then we have fleet management, telematics, smart cities. And there is a nice example that I just saw recently to emphasize what I'm saying. So when we are talking about smart cities, AI now can analyze traffic patterns in real time and adjust traffic signals timing to optimize the traffic flow. And of course, in these traffic signals, there are some IoT devices getting the data and sharing the data in the cloud. So there are a lot of nice things happening. But again, these are the three, and we also can add healthcare as another good one.
So, healthcare, how significant is that? Is that an important area for BICS?
Yes, we are basically everything that is in movement, as we are a home provider and persons are always in movement. I would say it's a target for us. But more than that, we care about people and how this data will be moving from a person to assistant and making sure that these people will be safe.
Yes. Okay. So we've covered some major points there, Gabriel. What is the big story in all this regarding, for example, let's start with AI. Where is the company with AI? Has it made a lot of progress with that?
That's an interesting question because every time that we are developing a new product at Bix, we try to understand the problematic. And when we were discussing how to implement AI in our solutions, how to approach, how to work with these companies, the main question we had on the table was, how can I get my device and connectivity data into my application that is hosted in the cloud? And then we decided to provide or to create a solution that basically is a one-click solution to send the connectivity and IoT device data into the public cloud in a scalable way. That's important to emphasize. But more than that, in a secure way to solve a lot of complexities of doing protocol conversions or delivering that data into the public cloud. So basically, we were looking on how to unlock opportunities. So basically, now you can have, for example, a 360 device management view. You can do faster troubleshooting. You can have an end-to-end security view. So some of these benefits are extremely important. But going into your question in terms of use cases, especially on the IoT side, we know that the battery life cycle is one of the main nightmares for developers and etc. And using this type of solution, we can, for example, predict the battery life for low power wide area devices, or we can identify when the device firmware should be updated and things like that. So that's again a nice merge of the solutions, and using our solution called Connectivity Twin, we can allow customers to do this type of stuff.
That sounds like there's some good progress being made there at the company. So that's good to hear, because obviously everyone's got an AI story, and the last thing we want to hear is what I would call as AI washing, just like greenwashing when it comes to the environment. It looks like you're making some real progress there, Gabriel.
That's correct. So again, the main objective is to create in our environment. As I said, we have the hardware, we have the connectivity, we have the application. And sometimes developers, they should manage different applications from different vendors. Right? So, and this brings a lot of complexity and that's it. So the idea here is, of course, we are selling for developers because Bix it's a B2B company, and part of our target is to improve, I would say, customer journey, right? And the customer journey on the developer side. And if they can buy time, if they can optimize their solution, if they can predict something using our products, this is what we are looking for.
And another area, I imagine that, 5G has a major role in all this, putting all the important pieces together and supporting them.
Yes. 5G is, one of the main advantages to have IoT devices running on 5G. It's not only about the downloads, the upload rates, and etc. So here we are talking about latency, but the 5G will allow devices to process high or huge amount of data. And on the other side, you should have, or you must have, systems that can predict real-time decisions, right?
Yeah. So in terms of real-time decision making, that's very important in these scenarios. What sort of progress as a company have you done in real-time decision making to actually help the partners and the end customers there?
Basically, one of the, I would say, the pillars of the AI is to optimize the decision-making process. Of course, when you are developing a product, you need to focus on how optimize operational costs, minimize downtimes, and etc. Now with 5G, and Bix has been investing a lot on 5G standalone, so that's something important to highlight. We do see a huge number of IoT devices using this type of technology, because then you can transact a huge amount of data and then act and react as quick as possible. It's really important. So that's another good example
Yes.
Of what IoT and AI can do together.
Yeah. And overall, we mentioned scalability at the end. People, listening to this would be thinking, well, if I go into this arena and I want to test things, how do I actually scale it up to make it commercially advantageous to my company? How can Bix, help these organizations with their scaling up of this technology? I imagine you've got the support networks, the internal expertise that help them do that.
Yes, that's correct. What Bix does, and it's important to emphasize, at Bix we have two big groups. We have the telco group, which we are working on the 5G standalone, selling those solutions for MNOs, and on the enterprise side, Bix is a connectivity provider. So we are part of the ecosystem. So in terms of enabling customers to have the best connectivity in terms of performance and etc. But now we are going one step beyond. So we are working with the cloud providers to offer the solution through the connectivity twin. So here again, we can talk about stability, scalability on two different scenarios. We can look for the connectivity perspective. So Bix owns the entire infrastructure, and on the cloud side, which players have been using, companies such as AWS and Microsoft or others, we are part of it. So that's the two ways we can work, making sure the developers or the company will have the best solution for it.
That's great. So that was a good introduction to the podcast with our first topic there. We're now going to move on to the main topic. So thanks for that first part, Gabriel. We're going to be talking about connectivity twins. Now, just to sort of set the scene here for the audience, speaking of digital twins in general, a digital twin is basically software representation from sensors. With digital twins, the idea is that a virtual twin of existing product, for example, is maintained, constantly collected manufacturing and business data. That's the general concept of digital twins. What we're talking about here today, Gabriel, isn't it, is the connectivity twin. And we had a subject, how can I get my device and connectivity data into my application that is hosted in the cloud? So if you could just explain to the audience, Gabriel, what are we talking about when we talk about a connectivity twin?
Nice. Okay. So let's think in three big blocks. We have the digital twin application, right? Then we have the connectivity, which customers can use Bix connectivity. And then the idea is, how can I bring connectivity data in the cloud, simplifying the complexity of it? So That's the first part. So basically, connectivity twins, it's a digital representation of device connectivity properties, right? So on the connectivity, there are several items that can be analyzed, and this, let's say, this infos will be available for users in a bidirectional way. So they can read, they can check, they can act, and etc. So in short, you can bring connectivity data straight to the digital twin platform. So that's the first thing. The second one, you can translate then into an understandable language for our customer, because when we are talking again using the battery life cycle management, so here we have items such as EDRX, PSM, operator hat, and etc. So we are talking about complex items that can be easily presented in a dashboard for customers. And the third one is to provide exactly a smart connectivity dashboard. So in short, they will have the connectivity data in the cloud. The data, it's going to be translated in simple terms through dashboards. That's, I would say, the concept of the product. The good part is that can run in the AWS and Microsoft, which represents, I would say, 90% of the applications.
That's right. So what other benefits for the users are there from this way of working provided by BICS and its partners? What other things come to mind? I imagine you're thinking, what are the listeners asking here? What are the things they'll be screaming for? As far as you're concerned, is BICS addressing the issues our audience are probably thinking about there in terms of what their needs are with this connectivity solution?
Well, there are several items that can be covered. I would say the first one is that you can select automatically network with better coverage, right? So one of the things we provide is a multi-IM solution, and using this solution, you can choose the best one. The second, we know that customers are extremely concerned about fraud. Security is one of the hot topics. So basically here you can block connectivity in case of suspected fraud. The third one I had highlighted before is you have the ability to identify when the device should be updated, when the firmware should be upgraded, for example. And if we are talking about low power wide devices like narrowband IoT, LTM, CAT-M, you can predict the battery life. So that's these four items are extremely important in the IoT scenario. And to finalize, more than that, you can have not only the connectivity data, but you also can have the device data running in the single or in the same platform, the single pane of glass. That's another interesting thing about this product.
So just so I've got this right. So using this solution, BICS customers can manage all their IoT devices to gain control to improve the overall quality of service and data security for their customers. Is that this is what we're doing here? Yeah,
that's correct. It's absolutely correct.
Okay, that's great to know. And is it right that you get the complete picture by managing your connectivity and devices from a single platform effectively? Is that correct?
That's correct. Then, because in short, we can, I'll say, unlock new opportunities for customers, because now they have a DMP, a device management platform, running in one side. They have the connectivity management platform running in another side. So they do the interactions or the integrations via APIs. But from now on, they will have the ability to have both items working together. And then this will help them to have the 360 device management view. So you don't need to spend time on product integrations and etc. As I said, it's going to be a one single click integration. That's it. Basically, we are helping them to buy in time.
Yeah. So just I got this right as well. So effectively, BICS customers integrate their digital twin with all the connectivity metadata of their SIMs or eSIMs to unlock new insights faster. Is this all linked to what you're talking about here?
Yeah. That's correct.
Okay, right. So, Gabriel, there are issues around, digital twins and related to the connectivity twin. The data that's being generated, it's going up and up and up, just like it is everywhere. it affects the IoT industry. I've been at conferences before. Some people have explained that the sensors that exist are going to have to be developed to actually keep up with the processing power, which is generating all this data. The chipsets are getting faster. The sensors are going to have to get faster. The amount of data being generated by companies is getting bigger. So the systems have to get more powerful. As an IoT industry, which obviously BICS is a key player in, how do you think as an ecosystem, the IoT industry with BICS can actually tackle these problems with its cloud partners about the speeds of the data and the amount of data? What comes into your mind in terms of how we can move forward as an industry, Gabriel?
That's an excellent point, Anthony. Here we see the technologies getting more mature. So on the connectivity side, we have 5G. Now we have 5G SA. The quantity of data that in a certain way needs to be transacted are increasing heavily. There are some methodologies which we can treat this data. Okay. Yes. So on the hardware side, we have the edge computing part. So you can process the data near to the sensor. So you can get the data, you can interpret what is important or not, disregard what is not, and send to the next layer what is important. On the connectivity side, as the networks are getting more powerful, so we can make sure that the latency, it's not going to be affected, that the download and upload rates will be okay. And as soon as the data arrives into the cloud system, then there is an ecosystem ready to prepare that. So just to do an example, on the AWS and Microsoft, they have the IoT core or the IoT hub. So these two systems, they act like a concierge. They will get the data and they will distribute internally based on the customer application. And then you can apply machine learning, you can apply artificial intelligence, you can store this data, you can simply show the data and disregard the rest. So there are some ways to implement this, but indeed, it's an important fact. And BICS has been investing heavily on the network side to make sure we can offer the best solution for our customers.
And as an extension, that very briefly, obviously, I mean, data security and IoT, it's a whole new podcast on its own. But briefly, when we talk about how data security needs are evolving and how the industry can actually look at data security, how do you see the industry coping with that in the medium to long term situation?
Yeah, security, if it's not the first one, is the second topic most discussed in our environment. So again, there are several parts where the security layers are applicable. Okay, so on the connectivity side, there is a solution called IoT Safe, which is a standard defined by the GSMA. So it's a root of trust solution that can be installed directly in the SIM card in order to make sure that no one will have access to the SIM card itself, right? There are other ones which you can do the same in the hardware side. So you can, for example, apply virtual private networks or private APNs in order to make sure. So again, there are several methodologies on how to treat this, but indeed, that's one of the most important topics at the moment.
Yeah, and thanks for those key pointers, Gabriel. Maybe we'll talk about that as a separate podcast in the future. So obviously we've been quite detailed about some of the general issues, talking about the industry generally, and going into what BICS is doing, how it's moving forward. It's important to make sure we don't miss anything here. So would you like to add any other information about the BICS offering, some of the key points which, because of my fault, I haven't actually brought to the surface here? So is there anything else you'd like to say? What BICS specifically is doing with this connectivity twin strategy and offering?
Yes. I like to say that BICS is moving from connectivity. We used it to be a connectivity provider, and now we are a solution provider, right? So we have, of course, we have our core network. So we are a global MVNO, MVNE. So we have private IPX solutions. We have regional platforms. We have NFB core technology and etc. But again, in this environment, it's always important to understand what is happening and see how you can adapt yourself. So we launched recently 2 new layers. One is the value-added services, which we have eSIM for consumers and eSIM for IoT solutions. We have connectivity twin. We have smart data, which is, I would say, the unique and global real-time data analytics platform. We have solutions for resellers. We have the IoT safe, and then we have the professional services. So basically now customers can have the support during the development phase from an expert team that can help them during the entire process. So that's what we are doing now. Of course, Connectivity Twin is one of the most interesting projects that we are working on. And again, it's important to emphasize that it's not only about connectivity, but it's about how we help customers on the ecosystem itself.
Okay. Well, thanks for that great discussion. I'm sure there are many important and interesting pieces of information for the listeners to digest there. We'll finish today with some more light-hearted industry developments. Gabriel, something that's caught your eye. Before we talk about it, I'll just tell the readers where we read this. It was reported in IoT Tech News and other places, to be honest, about Amazon's plans about expanding their Prime Air drone package delivery system to international locations. Starting next year, customers in the UK, Italy, and a third undisclosed city in the US will have the option to receive their packages via drones. And we talked about drones at the beginning of our conversation. Some of the listeners may remember. And the current Prime Air service is already operational in the US, and it has been for a year. And it's been delivering packages weighing up to 5 pounds with 1 hour. And that's quite a key service promise. Prime Air's expansion will include the introduction of the MK30 drone, which is also a quieter, smaller and lighter model compared to its predecessors. And so it sounds like there's some exciting news after perhaps talking about this over the last few years. Gabriel, how do you actually see this industry opportunity developing? And can you see any difficulties, for example?
Yes. That's one of the reasons why I love technology. So we can see those things happening and, of course, improving our lives. In the end of the day, that's what is important. It's a nice example on how IoT, robotics, and artificial intelligence can work together. So you have a drone that is controlled by someone. Basically, you can deliver packages remotely. So look, you have a drone with a huge amount of sensors connected in a 5G network, taking decisions in real time, sending perhaps SMS or message to the end customers, informing that the package will be delivered. Then you need to make sure that no one will access the drone and change the route. So security is one of the important topics. Then you need to make sure that your air traffic system will be available to have these drones working. There are a lot of components working at the same type of project. So this could be considered IoT, robotics, AI, but also part of the smart city project. Yes. It's something that will help to improve our lives. That's what I love. And I truly believe this is something extremely disruptive. And more than that, we cannot forget that these drones also have GPS or satellite connections. So you see 5G satellite on the connectivity side. You see cloud, artificial intelligence, machine learning, taking real-time decisions, saving the data, informing the customer. Then you have another communication platform to send the data. So this bunch of applications running into the same ecosystem, it's really, really interesting. And I truly believe this is the future. And more than this, it's happening, and it's happening now.
That's it. It's what we call leading edge technology, but then what some people also describe as bleeding edge technology. And I imagine that maybe BICS may want to get more involved when maybe it's not bleeding so much. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are trying to prepare ourselves for that. That's the point.
Okay. So I'll just tell the listeners now, I mean, that's the end of the podcast, debating the points, but there's a bit of housekeeping here. I've got to mention the fact there will be a transcript of important discussion here of the whole podcast, and it will appear under the published podcast on our website, and it will confirm any links that we've been talking about as well. I'd also like to give the listeners the opportunity to be able to contact you if they wanted to, Gabriel. So what would be the best way of them, tracking you down on the internet? Is there any social media platform you'd like to mention that they can contact you?
Yeah, I can share my LinkedIn. Yes, in that. Yeah, I can put here in the chat.
So maybe we could those in the transcript. So if you could supply those, we can put them in the transcript, and then they could just contact you. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, right. And so after that very detailed discussion, it just remains for me to say thanks very much to the listeners for tuning in. And when you see this podcast published, if you could use the social media buttons on the published podcast to let us know what you thought about it. And that just remains for me to say that's a goodbye from me, Anthony Savas. And Gabriel, it's goodbye from you, yes?
Yes, it was a pleasure to talk with you. Looking forward for the next opportunity. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. Bye-bye all. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.